Hi again then guys, and welcome to a kind of tuning vid which we haven't covered in quite some time actually on the channel, a Group 3 tune in particular. And usually, for those who are familiar with these builds, we tend to focus on maybe the more challenging Group 3 cars like the Ferrari 458 GT3. This time though, it's not a challenging car so much, it's actually a very popular one, the McLaren 650S. But for those who are unfamiliar with what I do to these Group 3 cars, basically it's a handling and grip build more than anything else, and then if you want to give it more power or more top-end speed, you can just add that if necessary yourself. So as far as the upgrades go, we've got no change in power or weight, so again it just gives you the idea of what the car can do straight out of the box. If you want to give it more power, of course it will be even quicker. As far as the traction control, obviously I'd recommend having that turned off as soon as you can be adept enough to do so. As far as the tyres, I often get asked by people still, why do I put racing hards on a race car and sports hards on a road car when you can get better tyres? Well, that's why. If you build a race car that has to use softs to be good, and then you're forced to use hards, you'll probably lose the race. Whereas if you build a car that's good on hard tyres, well then by definition it will be even better on sports tyres. So it's kind of like a fail-safe system. Now as far as the suspension goes, we've got the ride height a little bit lower on the front in comparison. It's actually as low as it can go, 55mm, then 5mm higher than the lowest on the back. That aids with the turn in. As far as the frequency on the springs, we've got 3.15 front and rear, anti-roll on 6 and 7. For the compression side of the dampers, we've got 57, with, as you can see, 85 on the rebound. I've got 1 degree of camber on the front, 1.5 degrees on the back. That works pretty much perfectly for me, but of course if you want to try it out, change it, maybe put 1 and 2, or half a degree and 1 degree, test it out if you want to, see if it works better for you. Then we've got neutral toe as usual. The downforce is of course as high as possible because, as I said, it is a handling tune. So if you want to use it, for instance, on Monza or Le Mans or something like that, and you do give it more power, then of course you can lower that downforce and get more top speed. And as far as the diff goes, again, especially with a mid-engine rear-wheel drive car, different people will definitely have different preferences, different driving styles. For me, as you can see, I've got the lowest initial torque and then halfway on both acceleration and braking. Again, that suits me just fine. It's got a little bit of oversteer on the exit of a corner. It will get its tail out a little bit, but it's nothing like the Ferrari 458 in that regard. And most of the time it airs a little bit more on the understeer side. So it's a pretty nice mix for my driving style. But again, you can change that by all means, or just experiment and see if you can find something that you prefer. And finally, for the gearbox, of course you will want to change these numbers if you do give it more power, because you'll reach the red line too quickly in 6th gear. But I've gone for the fully customized transmission, of course. As far as the auto setting, 124 miles an hour. Then for the individual gears, first gear is all the way to the right, and that improves acceleration off the line. Second is 2.6, which is pretty close to all the way. Then 2065, 1725, 1485, and then 6th is 1275. So you've still got that good top speed. And again, that top speed gear, or the gearing for the top speed, is especially designed for stock power. So if you do give it more power, like up around 700 horses, you will need to extend those gears and make them longer to get the most out of it. And as far as the final drive goes, as you can see, we've got 2.9. So that's it for the tune. Of course, there's always room for tons of variation and experimentation, even a Frankenstein tune between what I've done and maybe your style. But what you want to see is, of course, as always, how does this actually compare to the other Group 3 tunes that I've done? Well, I was actually expecting this to be possibly the fastest one I've done, because the McLaren seems to be, if not the most oversaturated, certainly one of the most popular Group 3 choices out there. And it's not hard to see why. The 650S is a great road car, the car that started the McLaren Renaissance is the MP4 as well, so it doesn't surprise me that so many people use it. What did surprise me is actually this is nowhere near the fastest that I've done. Now I'm sure with different tuning and certainly with a different driver you could beat my other Group 3 cars, but with me as the leveling factor driving all of them, with no power upgrades, racing hards across the board and similar tuning, not the same of course, but similar, this one's not as quick as I would have expected. It's nowhere near the Citroen, for instance, which really surprised me. Now, I'm sure for different people that would be totally different, but to give you some idea of how quick this is in comparison to the tunes that I've already put out on the channel, it's a little bit behind the Jaguar F-Type, which surprised me actually, and a little bit quicker than the Corvette. So that gives you some idea of where it falls in my tuning range. Surprising, to be honest, to me. It runs around a 158, 159, I think, or 138 or 139, I should say, not 159. But yeah, I'm sure other people could take it quicker. Maybe it's just not my car as far as the driving style, which wouldn't surprise me. I'm not much of a McLaren guy. But as far as the tune goes, of course, give it a try, see if you like it, maybe combine it, as I said, with some of your own tuning or your own style, and you could perhaps make it even quicker. By all means, that's the whole point of these tunes. So if you do decide to use the tune, or you want to check out my other tunes here on the channel for those other Group 3 cars, you can click the playlist here on screen to see all of those. And for now, as always, thanks for watching.